Is showing highlight? Is it highlighted? Like, is it bold? Okay, just click and set as default. Click, right click on it and then set as default. That's the second line. As default schema. Okay. All right. Okay. So that's all. So if you're setting a schema as default right now, this is what it means. So anything we're writing, any script we're writing right away, the script is going to be attributed to only the highlighted schema. That's the highlighted database. Because if we don't select it as default schema, any query we write under here, this tool is going to associate it with all of these schemas, and it's not even going to execute the command for you. If you write the query, it's not going to execute because you didn't attribute it to a certain schema or a certain database. So that's just how to create a database. So the next thing we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at how you can create tables and then insert data into tables. So let's go ahead and see that right now. So it's just the same English lines we'll be using throughout. Um, we can just go ahead and say just normal. All right, are you saying something? No, okay. So it's just normal thing we'll be doing. We just go ahead and just your caps lock is supposed to be just say create. We just say create table. So we can still use the if not exist. Let's use the if not exist so that it checks the table. It's not actually necessary, but it's just advisable to use it. So let's create a table right now that we can store data into that table. So what kind of table should we create right now? Let's just create a student table and then store student record into the table using different commands. So if you create table if not exist, you're going to call the name of the table you want to create. Let's say this is a school database and we want to create a list of students. We can just go ahead and just say students. All right. So right now, if you create the name of the table, there's no empty table. You cannot create empty table in SQL. You have to specify the columns, the column names for the table so that you can store it under your database. So if you create this, you're going to open bracket here, then you press enter. It's advisable that if you press enter, you press tab so that you can keep your code clean and easy to read. So if you keep you press your tab key, then you can just type. The first thing we need is maybe the student ID. So we can just use this student. We can say student ID. We pass in the first column name, student ID. So after you pass in the column name, we're going to specify the data type of the column name, whether it is going to store integer for us, it's going to store characters for us, or it's going to store date for us, or it's going to store boolean for us. But specifically, student ID are mostly storing integers. even though some might be mixed with maybe mixed with characters, but for this we're just going to be using integers. So you just pass in the name of the column and then the data type, which is the integer. So there's something I'll talk about. I think it has been treated in in Excel or maybe in Power BI, but it's just the same. Um, you saying something? Okay, in Power BI, right? You talk about primary key, right? Okay. Your okay. Okay. So there's primary key and there's foreign key in SQL. Even though there are other keys, but I think it's not associated with what we'll be doing that much. There's primary key and there's foreign key, or people can sometimes call it secondary key, but there's primary key and there's foreign key. Then there's unique key and there's composite key. There's index key and then there's alternate key. So these five keys are different, but most importantly, what we'll be using throughout this course is just primary and foreign key. So what this key does is primary keys uniquely identifies each record in a table. So this student ID we're creating is going to be unique throughout other tables. Maybe we are going to create this table, maybe up to 3 or 4 tables. Imagine you want to input the record of students. You are working with a school database, and this database is a large database that um you are at the center of the database. So any information on the student is going to store on this stored on this database. So the first table you're going to be creating, let's say this first table that the school is going to store is going to be maybe the student ID. That's the ID that the student was admitted under. Then the name of the student, then the year the student was admitted, then maybe date of birth of the students and other things. Then the second table might contain the department of the student, might contain the courses the student is offering, and the units of the courses this student is offering. So there are two different tables right now. But also on each of these table, there's a key, there's a column in this table, and this column is student ID. This student ID identifies in the first table and is going to also show in the second table. So it uniquely identifies each record in a table on its own so that the records are connected with each other. The other table is connected and so many tables are connected with the central table. So that's just what primary key do. So um the other key, that's the foreign key. The foreign key is just a link between other tables. So it references the primary key of another table. So just like I said, the secondary key, that's the one that is containing the student courses and the department. That's is going to be our foreign key. So the foreign key is going to connect with this primary key. That's using this student ID. The student ID is going to be in this primary key and is going to be on that secondary key or on the secondary table. So that's just the differences where we just it's just the same English with unique key. Unique key ensures uniqueness for all column or set of columns. And then composite is a combination of more columns in one table. And the alternating key is also a unique identifier for each of the tables. Then indexes is just used for indexing. Let's say you want to query important data in your you want to query important information from your data. Indices are going to help you to query those data fast. That's just it. So we're setting this as our primary key, and then okay. Remember to add a comma here because you're creating more than one columns. If it's just one column, you're going to just leave it like this and then close it and run it. But right now it's not one column we're creating. We're creating as many as 10 columns. Let's say we want to store the student ID, we want to store a lot of information about the student. So let's say we want to collect the first name of the student also. So this first name is going to be stored as characters. So there's a syntax for that. So instead of character, you use var. There's var character and there's var char or var char, people say. So we use this one instead, and then you're going to specify the number of bytes to be used in these characters. Let's say this is to help you minimize your storage and spaces in your database storage. So we use 50 now. If we use 50 now, it's going to take only the first name is only going to take 50 characters. So if a name surpasses 50 characters, it's not going to be possible to insert it under this column. You understand? Okay. So that's just it about the var or the variable character. So this thing we're going to be doing is also last name. We're going to collect the last name of the student, and which is also going to be stored as um, variable character. And then we just pass in 50 again. So the next thing we'll store is we need to get the age of the student also. That's we can just collect the age maybe. So age is going to be stored as integer. And then the last thing is we want to get the date of admission, the date that this student was admitted. So just say date admitted, right? So date admitted, we're going to be just saying data type is date. Since we're not going to be storing time, it's just going to be date. And date, we don't have to specify the number of character in date because date has a fixed number of character on its own. So that's all about it. So you just log in and then that's all for okay. Okay. I I understand what you're saying. If we put this comma right away here, this comma, we cannot continue writing here. Is that what you're saying? Okay, we can actually continue writing there and keep on using the comma, but for easy readability, for easy readability, it's expected it's expected that we break the lines after each comma so that it's going to be um it's going to be neat and easy to read. Because right now you're writing this code, um something might occur that you have to go back to this code, right? Or if you're not around or someone else that needs to go back to the code to make changes, it's going to be easy for that person to be able to read it. You understand? Yeah. So for the last one here, the last line you're going to write, you don't have to add. I'm sure it's a comma. You don't have to add comma. You just close it. You don't add comma. If you add comma, the environment is going to expect that you are going to add another line. So it's advisable you don't add comma, or it's a rule that you don't need to add comma at the last column name you're creating. So after that, you just go ahead and then you execute your statement. So if you execute your statement and you're seeing right now it's successful. So you come back to your schema right here and refresh. So you're going to see tables right now. If you check at the first time, you're not going to see these tables. Or if you Take this time around, you're going to see this drop down. Click on here, you're going to see the students table we just created right now. So if you come over here to this table code, this table, you're on field, you're having an error in your output, right? Okay, okay. Okay, where is your red dot specifically? Where is it specifically? Of the last line here, the seventh, that's this H. Okay, is it, did you put a comma here? Yeah. Okay, make sure that your comma is there. Add a comma, please. Yeah. All right, go back and run it right now. Okay. Are you successful, Sam? You cleared it. All right, all right, all right. That's what I wanted to say. If you clear it, we can just continue. I okay. No. Okay. All right. Let's continue. You can always go back and practice, okay? All right. So I dropped materials in the group one time. So just go back to the materials. I think there are all these things are there. And then there's something I forgot to tell you. The student ID, that's this primary key, can never be null if you are inserting data into it. So it is serving as a point of um a point of it's just like a pillar for your other table. So it can never be empty. So let's just go ahead right now and then do another thing. So there's something I need to tell you also. There's what's called comment in the in writing codes in most programming languages. You need to comment your codes for easy readability. So if you want someone else to read your code or you want yourself also, maybe if you write a lengthy code, you're going to have um you're going to have to go back sometimes maybe to edit or to if you have errors you can go back to edit the code. So you need to add comments to your code so that be able to read them and be able to understand them or someone else can understand them. So this is how to write comments using this double dash. You just put double dash, it's going to highlight it. Then you can type what you want to type. That's explain the code. That's just for documentation. So you can just say let's say how to create a database. You can leave it like that or you can add another dot 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 just to make meaning. So this is another comment also. Then we can just say how to create a table. So we can just leave it like this. So this comment now, it's going to show someone that okay, this is how to create a database. If someone is coming into your queries. So if you come into how to create a table, the comment is going to show you what it means. So the next thing we'll be looking at is we're going to be looking at how we can insert data because okay, I said earlier if you come to this table and you click on it right now, it's going to open in a new environment. So you can see the table we just created right now with the student ID, the first name, the last name, age and the date admitted. So let's go back to the query right now. So we need to insert data into these columns. But if you are working with an organization that owns a website and collects data through website, you would not have to enter data manually. The data will be entered from the front end or from the website. It's just that the SQL environment is going to collect the data and store them directly to the student table for you. But in a situation whereby you have to enter the data manually on your own, this is how we're going to insert the data. So we just use let's just say insert inserting data. Let me just make it uniform. Let's say insert data into the table. Let's say students. So right now we're going to see how we can insert data into the table. So basically it's English words we're going to be using. So if you just type insert, the insert statement is going to be highlighted. So this shows that you want to insert data into the table. So you just type insert into. Then you call on the name of the table you want to insert. You might have more than one table, as I said, but you want to insert data into a specific table. So you have to specify the name of the table you want to input data in. If you input, you call the name of the table, you're going to call in the name of the columns you want to input data into. So if you look at these columns we created, we're going to be just calling the first thing, which is student ID, right? So put a comma. This is first name, comma. This is last name, comma. Then age, right? Comma. And then date admitted. So that's just how to specify your column names. Okay, after you specify your column names right now, there's also something you're going to write, which is values. That's what you're going to be inserting into the table. So these values is going to be inserting the data you're going to give into these columns you just provided. So if you put value, you just put enter and then use tab so that you make your work clean. So you open bracket right now. So the first thing right now we want to pass is the student ID. Okay, we want to input the student ID first. Coming. So okay, all right. So we're going to pass in the student ID. So we can also use student one. Let's just say use student 101. That's 101. This is the first student we're going to be inputting. You put comma. Okay, the difference between them integers and variables are just this. If you're inserting data into tables, the the integers are going to come normally on their own like this. You just write it and then you put a comma. But anything that is string, um, okay, you can't hear me. Can you now hear me, right? Hello? Okay, it's clear now, right? Hello? Hello? Okay, but are you hearing me clearly, right? Hello? You're hearing me clearly now. Oh, okay. So as I was saying, I say integers, you just write the integers the way they are like this. Just they are numbers. You just write them as they are. But when you're writing strings, you have to put them in quotes. You have to quote strings. Anything that is string, you're going to quote it. So date, date time, and then variable char or, or characters. You're going to quote them. That's how SQL understands these data types. So let's just use the first student is going to be Ahmed. That's the student's first name. So remember to close the quote before you put a comma. So right now we just wrote the student ID, we wrote the first name. Let's see, we need to write the student's last name right now. So let's just say Ahmed. Let's say Ahmed Musa. Okay. So now we have this the last name right now and the age. The age of the student is just going to be, let's say, 21. So you can see this right now. Okay, this right now and this, we're leaving them as they are. We're not quoting them. We're just quoting these names because of the data type they are carrying. So the next thing we're going to do is date they were admitted. So the date we're going to be writing is just the normal date type or the date format for SQL is going to be this. Let's say you were admitted today. So let's just say you were admitted in January. So this the year comes first before the month and then the day. So let's say you were admitted on the 15th of January 2024. So you're going to quote the date, then you close it. All right. So just the same thing. Remember, always remember your comma because you're adding more data, you're adding more lines. So this is just for the first student. For the second student, we can go with 102 right now and just say let me just use my name, then okay, age we're just going to say 22, and the date I was admitted was 2024 month 1. It's also, let's say I was admitted maybe a few days after Ahmed was admitted. So you close it, you write another student, which is 103. Then we just pass in another name. Let's use a woman name, I think, right now. So let's just use Alice, and then Alice, let's say she is 19 and she was admitted on the 24th January. Okay, January 20th. So that's all. You can continue writing as long as there are numbers of data, as long as there are thousands of data. There's no shortcut. You're just going to use the same method to write. All you need is just add comma and then keep on writing. But for this class, we're going to stop here. So if we stop here already, it's going to show us it's showing us that we have written we are I mean we are just using these three. Okay, I forgot to put a comma in. Okay. So if you observe your SQL code, if there's any error, it's going to suggest that error for you already. So are you seeing this is underlined? So it's underlined because there's an error, and if you hover your mouse on it, if you put your mouse on it, it's going to show you that this extraneous input found expecting a this. So you can just always go back to your code and look at them. And if that error is something you can edit within the code, maybe by looking at it, you're going to look at it and see the error. But it's not something you can edit with the code, um you can actually just you're actually just going to see it you're just going to see it under this output. But for this right now, it's already successful. So just go ahead and just run it. So you can see it's successful right now. We have successfully created and inserted data into our table. So let's just go back to the student data right now. Put your mouse where and run. So right now you can see we have the student ID 101, 102, 103 with the names of the students attached on the inside the table. So that's just a way to insert data into this table. So we can go to this right now. There's something I wanted to mention earlier. So right away, there's a way you can pull your data from you pull your data from the table. Let's say you want to display this data right now from the table. All you need to do is you use this select statement. We're going to come to the select statement. You're going to use select statement and then this asterisk. Asterisk in SQL means all. You're selecting all from the table. So you're selecting all. Let me see because the name of this data is long. So you're selecting all from okay data manipulation SQL dot student. So you're going to select all. Let's see. Let me just. I love breaking my work. So just select all from. Let me just use this. Let me see something. Students. So if you use select all from students right now, it's going to display the data we just input into the table for you. So we have three input data we just input, and then it's going to show you like this. So why this statement is showing like this and it's still working the same thing is this is a different environment, and this is not actually working with this schema is on its own. So it has to specify the name of the schema before the name of the table. But since this is working with the schema we created, you can just specify the name of the table directly and the it's going to call out the table for you or the table content for you. Let me just add comments in case you guys are going to go through it because I'll be uploading this on GitHub and you guys can go to GitHub and then have a look at it when you're practicing and when you're doing one or two things. So let me just say um let's just say display data we just input. Okay. So the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to see how we can update this data. Let's say while you were updating this data, you made a mistake of maybe typing this name. Let's say you made a mistake in typing this name. And then the student comes back rushing to you and telling you, oh, I made a mistake. There's a mistake in my name. This is how the name is. So it's not going to take much of your time. You're just going to go back to your database or come back here to your SQL and see how you can update the name of the student to what the student suggests or what the students say is their name. So we're just going to add a comment and say updating data, updating data. So right now, in updating the data, you're just going to be using the NEMA English. So we'll be using English just throughout. You're just going to update you call the name of the table. So update students, right? So we're going to change certain things. Um you can just we update the students, right? Then we can just set, let's say the name of the student is not is the Thomas is not having this H. It's having it's just Thomas. So we're going to just set we're going to set um wait. We're going to set this, let me see, set we're going to call the column name right now. Okay, we're going to call the column name. So the column name is going to be um last name, right? So we said last name coming. Always look at your column names, because if you make mistake in your column name, you're going to have an error. So you said last name to remember to quote it. Set your last name to set the last name to Thomas. All right. So you just set the last name to Thomas, but this time around it won't take effect. This query on its own is just going to pick this table, and then it's going to highlight. It's just it's just going to highlight this last names, this Musa, Thomas, and Jerry. All three of them at the same time. If you leave it like this, which is not going to work. So we're going to use where clause. This where clause is going to specify where we are going to be working. So we just say where our student ID. Remember the primary key I said about now. So we're going to be using this primary key. So we just say where student ID is equal to. So we're going to collect the student ID of this student, or maybe let's say the matric number or the student ID of this student. And then we're going to check if the student gives us his ID. So if you look at it here, this is the student ID of this student. Is this class still going on? I'm coming. All right, are you still there, sir? Okay, okay. Because I thought it was overtime. So where student ID is going to be, we are going to mention the student ID of the student now. So right now, if we run this code or we execute this code right now, it's going to edit this Thomas, remove this H and replace it with this one. So let's go back and then check the table again. So select all from students. So if you run it right now, you're going to see the last name as was changed. So same thing. If you want to edit any other thing, if you want to edit any other thing, you can just go ahead and keep updating. If you want to update any other thing, you just let me see. You want to update the age right now. Let's say update student. Then you set age is equal to, let's say, 24. Then we specify where we want to update. Let's say we're still updating the same student age. So we just say student ID is equal to 102. So if you run this right now, it's successful. Come back right here and then run it. So we can see we change the student age to 24 right now. So this table is going to be updated in our database. So that's just how to update data in the in SQL. So all right, okay. Yeah, it's advisable to use the primary key for your calling for everything. If you want to pull any, yeah, if you want to pull anything, you want to update anything or delete anything from your tables, it's expected to use the primary key. It's understood, right? Hello? Okay. So can we move on right now? Okay. We're almost done already. Let me just wrap up. Let me just do this and then we can look at another thing. That's all. So let's see. a student was expelled, or maybe let's say after admitting these students and these students were supposed to accept this admission, but then the, the other person did not accept the admission. Let's say um this third person did not accept the admission. So we have to remove the person. So in removing the person, we're just going to be using the clause, which is delete statement. It's just going to be, let me just say how to delete data from table. So deleting data now is just going to be simple, just normal delete. So it's also delete from. We mention the student table. This is the table. Then we use our where clause there, and then we call in our primary key. Okay, is equal to 103. So this is just how to delete data from the table. So if you run this right now, you can see it was successful. So you can just, let me just copy this and then paste and then run it. So you can see we have only two students. We have successfully deleted the whole thing. We have deleted the whole records from the database or from our table. So let's see you want to delete the whole table. You can just use delete. You can just use delete um let me see. All right, this class is supposed to, okay. So we're just going to just use the same statement. We can just say delete from, then we mention the whole table. So this delete from is going to delete everything on the table. So let me say delete all records, all records from the table. So if you just run this right now, it's going to delete everything from our table. So let me just show you how it works. So if you run right now, it's still we have an empty table. We're back to square one. We have an empty table right away. So that's just how to delete all records and then to delete just a specific record. This delete a specific record and this deletes the whole record from the table. So that's just it for today's queries. We'll be looking at more complex um, queries in our class, in our next class. But for today's class, we're going to be stopping here and then we we I mean we're going to be stopping here from today. I'm going to drop assignments for you. Um I dropped a Google Classroom link for you all in the group for you to join. I don't know, maybe because I don't know if it's clear or I don't know what you're going to be using the Google Classroom for. The Google Classroom is going to be used to collect assignments and for you guys to be able to get assignments I'm going to drop. If I drop assignments, you're going to just go to the Google Classroom and then get, let's say, if it's a data set or if it's an assignment that you need to do, then you can just um, get a way of how you can be able to, you'll be able to do your assignment and submit. I can go to the Google Classroom and then get your assignments and then um check them and then grade you according to your work. So before we close, um, let's just look at you have questions, right? Uh, okay, they are the same thing all through. I have Postgres here. There's Postgres here, and there's MySQL. So it's the same thing. They are just different tools. SQL, there's SQLite, and there's MySQL Workbench. There's Postgres. Um, there are other things too. There's XAMPP SQL. So there are different tools, but once you're in them, you're going to be writing the same thing. The way of writing codes is the same. It's just that when the when the codes get complex, some um some tools might have a way of writing them differently. Just like what tools can I compare right now? What tools can I compare right now? Okay, take for instance um what should I compare? Let's say Power BI and Tableau. If you know Tableau, um they are almost the same, but it's just that Power BI is more different. You can use them both to do visualization, but the method you're going to use in Power BI is not the same as the one you're going to be using in Tableau. They're just the same tool. SQL is the language, but this MySQL is a tool on its own that understands SQL. Okay, but there's also a tool called SQL that is also used for writing queries, just like this MySQL. Then there's also MySQLite, as I mentioned before. There's Postgres. It's just that Postgres is a bit complex for me, and for this class, I don't want to be using Postgres. That's a bit complex. That's why I'm using MySQL Workbench for this class. So I hope it's clear, right? Yeah, okay. Um, Before we can close, I want us to just take a recap of what we just did today. So we look at data types, we understand different types of data in SQL, and we understand the type of data that can be stored on SQL. So it's advisable you go back and look at them. So we look at how we can create tables using the create table to define the structure of our table. And then we look at how we can insert data using the insert into new records. Then we look at how we can update data to modify existing records. And then we look at how we can delete data and remove records from the table. In the next session, we will be looking at querying data with SQL. We'll learn how to filter, sort, and then summarize various commands using um, queries. So that's just all for today and all for this class. Let me just give you a recap of what we'll be doing in our next class. We're going to be doing data querying with SQL. So looking at how we can filter data using um our where clause. That's what we use here. We'll be looking at how we can be using that properly. Then we'll be looking at how we can sort data using order by. Then we can order by higher to low or lower to high. We did that in Power BI. So we'll be looking at aggregate functions also. That's the count, the sum, the average, the max, and the mean. You did all this in Excel and in Power BI. We're just going to look at how we can create queries and then see how we can use them. So we're going to look at how we can group data also. And then that's all for our next class. We will meet in, in the next class. Okay? Uh, so there's no any other question, right? All right. So thank you so much. All right. Thank you. You can you can leave the class if you want. So if you don't have anything, right, you can just close.